Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Want Growth, with MAPS Coach Kristan Cole. Please note this webinar is being recorded, and you will automatically receive the webinar recording. If you have questions for your coach, please type them into the questions box located in your webinar taskbar. Following the webinar, if you have any questions about today's call or coaching programs, please email us at fasttrack@kw.com. That's all for me, Kristan. Take it away.
Oh, thanks so much, Carlos. I always enjoy working with you. You're such a class act, so thank you. I am MAPS Coach Kristan Cole, and we have a group MAPS coaching program that's coming up in June called Scale Your Business to Expand, if any of you are interested. And today, that's kind of the topic that we're going to talk about, and it's called Want Growth. If you want growth, how do you know, how are you able to compare one growth opportunity with another? What criteria should you be thinking about? What are some of the most common things that are most important to not skip over as you may be passionate about an opportunity for growth? So let's just say that you have a growth opportunity or a business opportunity that comes before you. What might you want to think about? Just and go ahead and type in the chat box anything that you can think of that would be important in considering a new growth opportunity. What would be important, do you think, for you to know? And then I'm going to give you some of my favorite fallbacks to always run. Think of this as a filter. When you have an opportunity, and the more successful you become in real estate, the more opportunities that are going to come your way. How do you know how to evaluate them? One against another. So would you guys like to know like my top 5 favorites? And I've got Peter McDonald on here with me too to kind of chat with, because this is, when we're thinking about the upside of a project, are you thinking how much potential income the property can make? How do you compare to, let me back up a second. Everyone should have what I call a minimum required new business income. Meaning if a business isn't going to give you X number of dollars, then don't even consider it. Now here's the funny thing. My minimum new business income requirement 25 years ago, when I had been in business about 10 years, is very, very different than what it is today. So this can be a moving target as you grow your business. So, when I first started with some rules about how to evaluate opportunity, my first rule was this one, and my first minimum required business income at that time was $100,000. Meaning if this business opportunity, growth opportunity, whether it's just expanding my real estate business into another zip code, or whether taking over a new geographic farm, or maybe I'm going to start a new marketing campaign, any of those things, my minimum was, is this opportunity going to make me at least $100,000 in profit? If it's not going to, my time is probably better spent elsewhere. Now, as we go through these filters, here's what I want you to know. It's never about just one of the filters. Because here's what, and as I go on, I hope it'll make sense. Here's what I mean by that. Would I go into a business opportunity that made less than $100,000 at that time if some of the other things that I needed to consider, like my time, that's a big one, and my capacity, and how much of my own money am I going to have in the game? So it's really evaluating risk and also making sure it's going to produce an income amount you want. So let me give you an example. If I was going to go into, let's say, another geographic farm, or if I was going to expand somewhere, if I had the right who, meaning if I had the right jockey, so it was not going to take my time, but it would return a reward, and all I had to do was put some of my skin in the game, meaning money, would I do it? Probably. But if it's going to require my time, my effort, if I'm going to be the driver, it's not enough money for me to be the driver, because I'm going to have to take something else off my plate in order to entertain this idea. So Peter, you and I have had this conversation, around opportunities and what they look like, and what maybe your minimum new in business income requirement is going to be very different from mine, because you're 30 years younger than me, right?
Yep.
And we talk about these things all the time, like, evaluating should you spend all your money on X, or should you set some aside for an opportunity that may come along that you're not even aware of yet? Have we had that conversation?
Oh yeah, and you've helped me walk through a question that actually just came in the chat box, which is how do you really determine kind of the ROI of some of these more ambiguous financial decisions or business opportunities, right? For me, it's been financial decisions that we've covered quite a bit. And now just recently, we've started looking at new areas to drive revenue within KCN.
Right.
And, somebody asked the question, how do you kind of determine ROI? And I know it can be difficult to pin it exactly with something like a business, whereas maybe it's not a rental property and there's kind of a philosophy around how you analyze a deal like that. But how would you answer that question? What do you do to determine the ROI before taking a step towards an opportunity that you see entering your world?
Yeah, and so everybody also has a different minimum level of an ROI. For me, I want it to return at least 4x, meaning if I am going to put $50,000 worth of capital into this project, I want it to return $200,000 in revenue. And so that's kind of my minimum when it comes to looking at it from an ROI perspective. When you're evaluating businesses, like maybe I want to start a signpost company, and I think to myself, that would eliminate all my expenses. I might not make that much money, but it would get rid of all of my expenses. See, when I first started in real estate, that's where my mind went. How can I reduce my costs? Well, I could start a signpost company as long as I had the right person to drive it. And they would be willing to go out and get business from other realtors, like, oh, we'll put up all your open house signs on Sunday and take them all down for you for this small little fee. So if I had the right person and it would cut all my expenses, I was all in, back in the day, because I was just trying to, as you've heard me say this a bazillion times, I want to zero, I want to zero sum my expenses, meaning is there a way that I can bring my costs to zero or next to zero? So at that time, it wasn't even about making a profit, Peter. It was about getting rid of some of my costs so I could run lean and mean. So that would be an example that, so I wouldn't have a great expectation of a huge profit, but it just eliminated all my costs. If he could put up all my signs for me and it didn't cost me anything because of the other revenue we were receiving from other agents, that might be a win. Today, it's probably not a win for me. Like, I'll just go ahead and pay that, and because I only have so much capacity. We only have so much capacity as leaders to lead other people. See, when I get into business with someone, that means that we're going to have a conversation every week. We're going to have a business plan. We are going to have an economic model around it. That takes time. That takes effort, energy. And so if I'm going to march down that road today with one of my leaders, or let me say it differently, if I have to go get another leader to lead that particular thing, and it's not going to return money or return additional opportunity, it's just going to cut my expenses, I might not be that interested. However, as you know, Peter, we are doing some things with some of our vendors in order to cut all of our costs, but how much of my time is it requiring?
Oh, very little.
Exactly. So that's what you're always looking at, is your time. So let's talk about a couple more, which I think that will help you when you're evaluating an opportunity. The other thing you need to look at is what adverse impact are we not seeing right now that could happen? Meaning, who are your competition? Are there any obstacles in the way? What might be happening in our market of the moment, and if it changed, would it impact business? Let's just go back to our signpost company again. What if all of a sudden we know inventory? Let's say we started this company last year. Last year in Metro Phoenix, there are typically right now this time of year be 8,000 homes on the market. Right now there's less than 3,000. So if I started last year thinking I'm gonna have all these people who want our company to put their signs up, and now there's no inventories, there's no signs to put up, gosh, that might have just, that's an obstacle that maybe I hadn't thought of. And so you really want to think about what's going on in the market, where do we think the market's going, so can we get in front of an opportunity? So you always want to look at strengths, weaknesses, who's going to run it, And I always ask myself this question, you might want to write it down. If this wasn't to work out, why is it not going to work out? If I try to put a black hat on, what am I not thinking about that I should be thinking about that if this happened, it's not going to work out? So, and here, the number one reason businesses don't work out, it's either legal or financial, or they have the wrong who. So first, the who is a big deal. So that's kind of my number 3. Who is the jockey for this? Meaning, who's going to be the driver? And if there's not a driver, how challenging will it be for me to go find one? And also remembering that if there are very few people involved in this opportunity, if they win the lottery tomorrow, I just got a job back. So I'm always considering those challenges. So I would say one thing that you always need to default to when considering any business opportunity, whether it's a signpost company or going into another geographic area or spending money on a particular marketing idea, is always default to the who. Who is going to drive this? And if it's going to be me, the amount of money that business needs to make just changed. Because that means I'm going to have to get something else off my plate because I'm very highly scheduled and I only have so much capacity. I have a lot of capacity, but everyone still has a level of capacity that there's no many more hours in the day, or something else is going to fall, like the relationship with your family, your personal health. So all of those things matter. So who's going to be your jockey? And if it's going to be you, then is the business opportunity big enough for you to adjust your schedule to include that new growth item in it? And then I always ask myself this too: how many people are going to be involved in this new opportunity? What's it going to look like 3 years from now, 5 years from now? Is this going to be another 100 people or 1,000 people, or is this going to be one person? So for me, I'm always thinking about, how many. It's always easier to oversee a smaller number than it is a bigger number. The bigger the number gets, the more complexity there is. The smaller the number, the simpler it is. So maybe I'm going to expand into another city and I have the who. I'll tell you what, if I have the who, Katie, bar the door, it's all over, meaning it's going to be great. Because if I have the right who, then they're going to grow the business, they're going to bring on additional team members, and I'm not the one having to drive it, and I already have the capacity at our hub to deliver on the administrative support and the lead gen support that they're going to need. So if I've got the right who, all of a sudden my excitement level goes up. If I don't have a who yet, my excitement level goes down. So just thinking about that, how many people are going to be involved? Is this going to add a bunch of complexity to my life, or is it going to help simplify my life? There are some things that I get involved with just because it's going to simplify my life. So always think about these 3 things. These are the 3 things you need to really consider. What am I bringing to the table? For this new business opportunity, what am I bringing to the table? You're either bringing your time, your influence, or your capital. Well, when I first got started in real estate, I had a ton of time. I had no money and no influence, but I knew I could work harder than anybody else, and I knew I would work harder than anybody else. So I was willing to put in the time. Today, I don't want to put in any more time. I'm super happy to use my influence. I'm happy to use my capital for an opportunity. But my time is very precious, and I'm unwilling for it to suck up a bunch of my time. So again, you may be in a different place in your journey where time, that sounds good. I need an opportunity to work towards. So you and I might get in business together because you're a talented person who has a lot of time, and I have the capital and the influence. And so those are the 3 things that people always need to consider. Am I missing anything else, Peter, that we've talked about before in terms of building relationships, gaining influence, and finding the right who?
And muted. There we go.
There we go.
No, I think you hit it on the head. And one of the things that you often say and continues to hit home with me and other people is it's who before do, right? And I think these questions really drill down on, do I have the right person before I'm worrying about what it is I need to do to get this business off the ground? Because in a lot of circumstances, that is the most important factor. And I think we were talking just yesterday about something we spend money on and we talk about in KCN, but there's not been anyone driving it ever, right? So it kind of sits there idle, and it may not be always this huge, big, looming problem, but it kind of just it's just like just there, it's just flat. There's nothing going on, and I just think that was a great example of, without somebody focused on this and driving it, we're not going to get any ROI from it.
Yeah, it's not going to take off. It's not going to get traction. Maybe a great idea. And we talked about a couple of them, like they're just sitting there idle because we don't have the right driver. So the who is so important. And I think the other thing you need to consider is, how passionate am I about this growth opportunity? Like I said, when you brought me an opportunity that will certainly reduce costs and is going to generate revenue. And my first question is, how much time is it going to take? And you said, you know what? It's not going to take any of your time. I'm going to handle it. I'm like, all of a sudden now, ooh, my passion goes up. As soon as you say that you need me to do things, my passion goes down. So again, I think you have to, so what you have to say to yourself is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how passionate am I about this opportunity? And you can't use the number 7.
I love that rule.
Yeah, and again, it doesn't mean it's not a good opportunity, but here's how I think about it. If I'm a 4 or 5 and it's not going to take any of my time, just my capital and influence is going to make money, I can do that, even though I'm only maybe a 4 or 5. We're doing things right now that I am super not passionate about, but I know it creates a result. I don't have to drive it, and so I'm like okay with it. But if it's something that's going to take any of my time whatsoever, I need to be like above an 8. I need to be super passionate about it. If I'm expected to drive it and put some time into it. And so for me, there's probably very few things that get me to that level anymore. One of the things I'm super passionate about is helping other leaders grow their businesses. That's why I do the MAPS Group coaching program, Scale Your Business to Expand, because I get to talk to leaders and I get to help them with some of the roadblocks that all of us have faced in our journey, that maybe I can help them as a leader get them where they want to go. So if anything, I can help teach them with what we've learned with scaling and automation, and how do you actually create something that starts as a checklist and 4 years later is completely automated. What does that look like? How do you do it? How do I even begin? And I can help other leaders with that. That gets me super excited. So that's why I'm willing and passionate about the group coaching program. Just somebody yesterday said to me, Keller Williams has changed my business, but this class changed my life. That's pretty powerful. So to me, I get totally excited about that one. But there's other things that come, and here's what I would say. They create a lot of noise in my life. And if it's creating a lot of noise in my life, my passion level goes down. Let me give you an example. Property management. Now, Peter, are you excited about property management?
Oh yeah, very excited about property management.
Right. I am not excited about property management because, as I explained to Peter, am I happy to help with property management? Yes. Use my influence, use my money? Yes. But it creates a lot of noise. And and what I mean by that, I don't have people calling me anymore about their toilet not working at 10 o'clock at night. That creates noise. So if I've got the right who and the noise is not going to reach my level, I might be okay with it. So to me, it's like how much, just how much noise, and noise can be It's one of those areas of real estate or business that is just constantly churning. Let's just say somebody wanted me to go in with them on a McDonald's franchise. Well, your personnel is going to constantly turn over in McDonald's. That would like, I would have zero passion about that, because most of my leaders have been with me years, some of them decades. Like, I have no desire to have a bunch of turnover. I really like dealing with a smaller group of people that want to get something done, that have goals and are, their vision is aligned with my vision, and let's go. Versus dragging the train, having all this noise in my life. That just drives me crazy. So how much noise? That's another question I ask. How much noise is this going to cause in my world? Because of course, if there's not a lot of people involved, if they win the lottery tomorrow, I've gotten a job back. And is this a job I want back, ever? So those are some of the things we consider. So let's just stop a moment. I've given you 4 or 5 ideas about ways you should consider growth. You want growth? That's awesome. Have you considered these things when you think about growth? Your time, your influence, your capital. So what are your thoughts right now? Or what questions do you have so far in the chat box?
So they're gonna take a second to come in, but as you guys are typing those in, Kristan, something came to my mind that I think is probably relevant to a lot of people, you know, kind of regardless of where they're at, and it's often framed up as an opportunity, and I think that these questions apply so directly to this, and I'm having this realization now, so I wanted to share it as people are asking their questions, and then we can get to your guys' questions. You know, one of the things that we talk about so often, or I guess we hear about, is you need to be using social media for your business, right? And I think it's really worth asking, how much noise does that create in your life? Does it create a lot of noise to hire a videographer and then have them film you around on all your listing appointments, and then have them edit it, and then you review it, and then make more edits, and then post it, and then manage the comments, right? Some of the stuff that you see really high performing social media influencers doing is very, quote, loud, right, in their life. And I think that sometimes that's right for people, and sometimes it's added noise that may not be the best option. And it's just such a helpful thing to frame around that. Obviously, I think about that a lot. Like, is it worth the time spent?
Is it worth noise?
Yep. Is it worth the noise? And I think that's just a great question to ask yourself. So I'll give a couple more seconds here in the chat, but we don't have any questions in our questions box. Let me look at the chat.
Okay, well, hopefully we're answering them. The other question I ask myself when I'm considering a growth opportunity would be, does this new opportunity provide the customers for the new venture? Or do I already have or are there synergies, efficiencies, and resources in my current business that I can leverage to the new opportunity? So I'm always asking myself, are there synergies? We talk about it when we do vision mapping. The synergies between different businesses or different growth opportunities, you know, what are they? Is there enough synergy? Can I borrow from this database to start this new business? Are there efficiencies that can happen? You know, right now I own several market centers, and I'm always looking at if we are big enough that we can now do X that we couldn't do as one market center. So are there efficiencies, and are there synergies between them that we can find? So when you're looking at those opportunities, like for instance, if I was going to go out and buy a Taco Bell, there are not a lot of synergies, efficiencies, and resources from my current organization to help with the Taco Bell. So that's going to be very, very loud. So I kind of think of it this way. It doesn't matter how much money it makes. I'm not passionate about it. I don't know how to run a Taco Bell. Don't want to learn to run a Taco Bell. Don't want the turnover at Taco Bell. And there is zero synergies, efficiencies, and resources in my current company that would help a Taco Bell. So I think of it like that. However, if you said, Peter, if you came to me with a new marketing idea and you said, you know, we've run this play before, we typically get a 4 to 5x return. We're not running it now because it hasn't been the message of the moment. But now considering the market, this would be a perfect time to run this play. And Kristan, I only need you, and he's very good about saying this. He tells me exactly what I'm going to have to do. I need you to record 3 videos and you're done. I'll run the play. And here's what it's going to cost. And here's what I think the return can be. Then I probably would take on another growth opportunity like that. However, if he's like, you know, Kristan, we should open a new expansion team in Arkansas. And I have all these great ideas of how we can market to Arkansas people. And I just think this is awesome. And I'm going to be like, okay, well, who's the who, Peter? Well, we don't have one yet, but we're going to recruit one. And how much money are we going to have to put into this? Oh, you know, we might run negative for a few months. Like all of a sudden my passion goes there. The passion level goes way down. So these are just some tips and tricks that I have found over time that help me evaluate opportunities. The other thing I ask myself is this part of my big why? And that really is a passion question, meaning, is this going to help me with my own personal mission in life? One of my personal, so I do have a business mission, which is, you know, Kristan's Home of Hope. It's our 501c3. You know, so I'm super passionate around our big why in our business, but I also have a personal big why. My personal mission state, my personal big why is really to support the leaders that I work with every day to make sure that they're getting what they want and that I am helping them achieve their vision inside of our world. That's what I'm super passionate about. So if this opportunity was going to provide, for instance, you, Peter, with more opportunity, then I might consider owning a Taco Bell if that's something you were super excited about. You know, I would be in helping you. So I think of it like that too. It's not just about me, but it is also about how do I help my people get what they want? And so I might go down a path like that around opportunity if it was going to, if it's something that one of my leaders was excited about. We talk about this and obviously much more in Scale Your Business to Expand. So if you don't know about that class, it's a MAPS group coaching program. It's 8 weeks long, once a week for an hour for 8 weeks. And we basically show you how to step by step start implementing the things that you would learn in ESO. How do you start implementing them at the foundational level to create the foundation for growth, for scale, for automation? So if you have any interest in that, it'll be on the MAPS Group coaching page, and it's called Scale Your Business to Expand. It starts in June. I believe it's on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Central. So if you have any questions about that.
No questions I see in the chat box about that right now, but we did have some come in that I think if we can just quickly cover in the last couple minutes here, and they're very closely related. So Faith asked, can you talk a little bit about mindset and ways to dream bigger, think bigger, increase confidence to really just make that leap? Faith's biggest concern is managing more business.
So for me, what caused me to think bigger is the first time I think I really had a talented individual working with me. I never wanted to lose them. And so the one thing I did was use the CD process, the motivational piece, to understand where their vision is headed, what's important to them. So what I realized, if I was unwilling to let my business get bigger, if I was unwilling to expand my business so that they could get what they wanted, I probably would lose them. That's why most people lose their team members. It's usually, money's usually number 3 or 4. People want to be part of something bigger than themselves. And so so you said, how can you change your mindset? Remember, if you want to keep talented people in your world, you need to care what they care about and make sure they're getting what they want. And that requires always for you to be willing to grow.
And I would say that you're very good at that, Kristan. It's a hard skill, right? I mean, even on a small level, working with our support team, I find a lot of difficulty just putting myself in their shoes and giving some trust, right? Like, you know, that takes a lot of skill. So thank you for sharing that. And then we have one more quick question here from Richard that again I think is going to resonate with a lot of people. Richard said, I understand the scope of your opportunities, Kristan, are at a much higher level, but he was hoping that you might have some suggestions on how he could attract opportunities if he doesn't have capital and doesn't have influence. Obviously, he has time, but he can't work on new opportunities 24/7. He would appreciate any advice you have for somebody that's in that, you know, budding phase of building their, you know, career in real estate and looking for opportunities.
So I think number one, the mindset, I was willing to get up every day and do what nobody else wanted to do. So I found opportunity by doing things that other people just, they were at a phase in their life that they just weren't willing to do it. So, you know, it starts small and typically doesn't cost a lot of money, but it does suck up your time. And it's like, for instance, at one time in my life, I always created my route home so that I could go by at least 2 of my either past clients or 2 clients that I wanted to have and do a pop by, meaning stop, just say, hey, you know, maybe bring them a little gift, maybe a bottle of wine or something. But that was part of my routine. On my way home, I always created a driving route. So it may have taken me longer to get home because I was driving, you know, I was meandering around, but 2 pop bys a night. So a lot of people are unwilling to do something like that. But that was something that I could do that required only my time. I also was willing, you know, and this was in Alaska, and the weather isn't the greatest there, especially about 9 months out of the year. So doing those pop bys and going to the subdivisions that I wanted to own, so to speak. Gary says, go put a flag. And even if you have to list your first house in there for 0 commission, go stick your flag in it, and then you own that street. Once you've owned the street, then own the subdivision. Once you own the subdivision, own the community. Like, go. You can do that when you've got time and you're small, and because flyers, business cards, you know, that doesn't cost a lot of money. And if you have the right script, door knocking. I met a young man, I was teaching ESO with Ben Kenny up in Bellingham, and he was 20 years old. And his first year in real estate, he sold 43 houses doing that one thing, door knocking every single day and being super purposeful about it and purposeful about the follow-up. So anything can be successful. Most people cram way too much. And if they narrowed their focus on fewer things, but then just took a deeper dive into them with their time, they would have more success, which then gives you more money and more influence to do other things. So that's what I would do. I would narrow my focus on something, the lead generation activities that don't require a lot of money, and I get up every day and skip and whistle work to do what nobody else wants to do.
Wonderful. That's everything in the chat for now, and I think we're just 3 minutes over.
Yeah, so thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Kristan Cole, your MAPS coach. If we can do anything for you, go to our MAPS website, reach out. We will absolutely get back with you. We have lots and lots of great MAPS group coaching resources. So thank you so much for spending the time with us today. We hope you found value in it.
Thank you, everyone.